Hello friends, it's Laura here, and I'm making rice pudding today. We're going to start out with 1.5 cups of rice that I made last night. My mother-in-law was kind enough to make us a nice pork. She shared some pork that she made with us, and she said it would be really good over rice, and I had been wanting some rice pudding anyway, so I made up some extra rice then. So 1.5 cups of rice. Good. And then 1.5 cups of milk. Just regular old milk. I don't have any fancy milk, but I think you could use whatever kind that you prefer. I think this would work if you wanted to use a milk alternative. One and a half. Okay. Now we just have, you can't see my pot, I just have a regular old pot, nothing special. I've tried other recipes. I'm turning the stove on to medium heat. I've tried other recipes that used a double boiler, and I've tried some baked rice pudding recipes that tasted horrific. They were nothing like I wanted rice pudding to taste. So we need 1/3 cup of sugar. The sugar's missing. Hold on. Oh. Okay. Hello. Sugar. I buy a lot of sugar. Ariel laughs at me. He says, what are we running, a summer camp here? 1/3 cup right into the pot. But when you have 6 kids, that's close enough to close enough to a summer camp to buy the big 25-pound bag of sugar. And we're going to use 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're still working on our magic chiropractor salt bag. We can't seem to get to the bottom of that. Okay. So we're going to cook this. I'm setting a timer for 15 minutes. Okay. So this is my little recipe card that I made up. So we had 1.5 cups of cooked rice, 1.5 cups of milk, 1/3 cup of sugar, 1/4 teaspoon of salt. We're going to cook over medium heat until it's nice and creamy, like a pudding. I have to break up my rice. It got a little bit clumpy. I don't have a fancy rice cooker. I don't have an Instant Pot or a pressure cooker or whatever. So to make my rice, I guess if I was starting from scratch, say I was trying to explain this to one of my children who's never made rice before, I took 1 cup of rice and 2 cups of water and boiled that for 20 minutes. Got it up to a boiling, turned it down to low heat, and ran that for 20 minutes, and that's how I make rice. This is just a long grain white rice. I asked one time, because I had a bunch of parboiled rice that I got during the pandemic because regular white rice was gone, and I asked around if anybody had ever made rice pudding with parboiled rice, because it doesn't seem to, stick together the same as a regular long grain white rice does. And nobody I knew had done it yet, so I don't know if it works. I didn't want to mess up my rice pudding. I take my rice pudding very seriously. I love it so much. We live in such a sophisticated time for eating and food and recipes. Everything is, all these fantastic and wild flavors that you know, I didn't have access to when I was growing up. Maybe other people did, but I feel like they just sprouted up out of nowhere. And rice pudding is just classic, and it makes me happy, and it feels timeless, but maybe it's old fashioned. My grandmother loved it when I would make this recipe. My grandmother lived across the street for a while, and well, she lived there for a long time, longer than I've lived here. But she's not alive at all anymore. But when I would make this, I would bring over a little cup to her house and put it on her porch for her and tell her that I'd made her rice pudding, and she always at least told me she was happy with it. Rice pudding was one of her favorite foods. She didn't make it, I don't think. I never had, you know, rice pudding like Grandma made. I don't know. My grandmother bought us little Hostess or Debbie, and what are they? I don't know. All those little individually packaged dessert treats, and there was usually a Danish at her house. You know, it came in a box from the grocery, and she had an amazing knack for always having stale Twizzlers on hand, and I love stale Twizzlers. I love, like, when you have to really fight to bite into them, and I guess that's because, you know, I grew up stealing them from Grandma's kitchen cabinet. She always had a candy dish, a blue glass candy dish on her hutch, where I would also go steal some candy. I was probably welcome to eat it, but no one ever told me specifically, so I was a very neurotic child, and I was worried that I was breaking rules, which didn't stop me from doing it, but I definitely used some ninja moves to get candy out of my grandma's house. And like I said, I never had rice pudding with her. I'd made rice pudding maybe for a family holiday we had or something, and that was when she told me she loved rice pudding, and rice pudding was her favorite. So after that, hey bud, after that I always brought some to her house when I made it. Aston's fresh back from the ear, nose, and throat doctor, trying to find out, he has a ringing in his ear, trying to find out if there's anything to that. We've had 2 appointments now and no answers. So we get to go for a whole bunch more testing, which I have a feeling it's all going to come to nothing. Hopefully it'll come to nothing, but his ears will still ring, so I don't know. I hate doctors. Not like as people, just I hate going to them, and I hate all the mystery around it. I wish it was a more concrete field than it is, but what can I do? Oh, so we're boiling over here. That's good. So as I said before, I've tried so many rice pudding attempts since I've grown up and got it in my head that I was going to make my entire life from scratch. And I messed up a lot of rice pudding, and can I say what a wonderful housemate my husband is, and what a trooper, because he has sat with only a slightly pained look in his eye and eaten every awful attempt at rice pudding I ever made. And then one day I finally came up with this recipe that I'm making here today, and we were both like completely relieved. We could enjoy rice pudding and enjoy rice pudding. It actually tasted good. With Ariel, if he doesn't like my cooking, he would never say so. The only way I know that he doesn't like a thing is he doesn't ask for seconds. And maybe he doesn't even clear his plate, and that is not Mr. Jones' behavior. So if that happens, I know I messed up his meal royally. And I have to add here that I know it's probably very upsetting to hear a woman talk about making her husband's meals. You know, in this day and age, we want women to feel empowered and be recognized as equals. And I have to say that in our household, we have a division of labor, but just because it's based on more traditional male-female roles, I don't think one of us is more or less important than the other. Everything has to get done, and we both recognize that. So this is just more domestic things, or more what I like to do. I don't want to you know, go hop up on a roof with Ariel ever. I don't want to paint the exterior of a house or install windows or insulation or sand floors. I don't want to do any of that. So I like keeping our family fed. Although, as always, this rice pudding will only feed probably 3 of us, maybe 4. You know, my kids get picky. They don't eat everything I make. That's okay, because I like making it. I had 2 cravings this week. I wanted rice pudding and I wanted minestrone soup. And I made the minestrone soup. First time I've ever made it myself. And it was just as delicious as comes out of a can. I think I might be one of the few people in this world who, when I cook something from scratch, my goal is always to make it taste like it came out of a box or a can. I don't know. I guess I grew up on, you know, my parents weren't afraid of a canned meal. So that's what I'm aiming for, where most people are saying, oh, this canned food tastes just like homemade. I'm like, oh, this homemade thing finally tastes like canned. Hooray! So we are at 6 minutes left to go, and we are really creaming up nicely here. The rice is absorbing the milk and the sugar, the salt. We're doing good. It's cold here again today. We had some beautiful weather. I have some color on my face. I don't look like a zombie anymore. Because we had so much wonderful sunshine and the kids were outside playing and having fun. And whew, this weekend Basil rode a Power Wheels right off of a cliff and nearly gave me 15 different heart attacks, but I survived and he survived. And he told me afterwards, he goes, oh, I'm okay, Mom. He goes with his shoulder, I just broke one of my legs. So he did not. He was running around and happy as can be. So that was a miracle. If you'd seen it, it was horrifying and I was so upset. But that was it. That was after he nearly killed himself on the dune buggy. Winter came back to town. It's windy and it's cold, and we had some snow flurries this morning. And we're back in our long sleeves and we're staying inside, although it's sunny out today. It's so windy that I don't want the kids to get hit in the head with a stick or whatever and killed or hurt or what have you. So we can take one day off. We've been outside so much. We've got more than our necessary outdoor time. We did good. Chickens, the poor chickens are all outside. They're hiding underneath the hen house, all huddled together, because they don't like the wind. They only come out to take a bite to eat and then they go and hide back together. Maybe my stove runs a little hot. This is going quick today. Maybe it just knows that you're all getting impatient to find out what comes next. All right, we are 4 minutes ahead of schedule. But I feel like I'm ready to move on just by looking at it. Let me see if I can share this with you without the steam upsetting you. See, this is good, gloppy, it's creamy in there. I feel like we've done all they can ask us to do. All I can ask us to do. That's weird when you start referring to yourself as they. I must have some sort of past life royal experience coming out. Start referring to myself in the plural third person. What the heck? Anyway. This looks good. So step 2. We're going to stir in another half cup of milk. Oh, do you hear it? It's talking to me. Pop, pop, pop. Pop, pop, pop. So a half cup of milk. There we go. And 1 beaten egg. Here is an egg that my girlfriends out in the backyard laid for me. Thank you, chickies. Thank you, my dears. We're going to whisk that up. Ooh, look at, just for a second. Look at how nice and dark that yolk is, because my hens are happy and healthy. And they make lovely, lovely eggs. And they're not upset about it, so I don't mind stealing them. They don't have a rooster, so the poor darlings can't have babies, and that's not my doing. That's living in a village. We have zoning. I have feelings about zoning. Personally, I think, my goodness. Oh, 2/3 cup of raisin. We're going to put those in too. 2/3 cup of raisin. And I'm going to turn this back on medium, and we are going to stir this constantly for 2 minutes. Anyway, what I would like to see for zoning is the second you own a thing, good for you, you own it, and you should be able to do whatever you want on your little slice of heaven. And, you know, maybe that makes me a bad neighbor, maybe it makes me a good neighbor, because I would never tell my neighbors what they can and cannot do, which doesn't mean that, you know, there hasn't been a party or a I don't know, a vehicle or a whatever, some music that hasn't woken up my babies at one time or another. But the way I see it, everybody has a right to be happy and have a good time. I live next to the fairgrounds, so we get some noise about that. I knew the fairgrounds was there when I bought the house. We have some weddings, sometimes there's fireworks. They're noisy, but we don't keep a dog. A lot of people get upset about, their dogs get upset by fireworks. We don't have a dog, so basically we like the free fireworks show if anybody gets married in our backyard and launches the fireworks. That always makes us happy. But, you know, zoning exists, and I guess it's good so that nobody gets completely freaked out, I guess. And that said, I cannot have a rooster, so my chickens can't have baby chicks, so they're denied the right of motherhood, but it means their eggs are useless to them, so I take them. I'm happy. They're happy because I feed them and water them, and Ariel built them that lovely house that they don't pay rent, so that's good. And let's see, this is looking just beautiful. That bright yellow yolk made a lovely color. Oh, my hair. Lovely color to the rice pudding. This is going to be so good. You can eat this warm or cold. Oh, there we go. Our 2 minutes are up, and look, I'm going to just show this to you here. Excuse me, milk. We have a nice, beautiful creamy pudding, but we're not done yet. We're not done. We're keeping this off of the heat. I have nice concrete countertops that my husband and my brother-in-law made for me. And so I can put my pots right on there. I'm not going to ruin anything by doing that. So I'm going to add 1 tablespoon butter. Mix that in. And I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. So good. So tasty. It smells so good. We have a vanilla story here. Just going to stir this up right off of the stove. When Dorothy was 1, she got into my spice cabinet, and I never thought a spice cabinet was the sort of thing that you had to keep locked up from your children when you're baby proofing, because whatever. Number 1, the caps are hard enough to get off, and number 2, they're just spices, right? Except for vanilla. Vanilla is not just spices. Vanilla, turns out, has quite a bit of alcohol in it. And my beautiful 1-year-old little girl was absolutely bouncing off of our kitchen cabinets back and forth and back and forth. And I was like, what the heck is wrong with Dorothy? And I saw that she drank almost a whole bottle of vanilla extract and she got drunk at the house. It was a low time in her life. I keep my vanilla up high now, up here. Nobody else. No more little baby drunks. For me, I learned my lesson But Dorothy, every time we bake something together, she says, "Oh, Mom, let me just smell that vanilla. Ooh, it smells so good." And I'm sitting here thinking, like, I bet you think it smells so good. So we don't let her drink the vanilla anymore. I really didn't know. My goodness. So if you can learn from my mistake, keep your vanilla up high, lest your little baby get hammered. And there it is. We are all done. It is easy to do, and I have spent years and years coming up with just the right recipe that tastes like when I imagine I want rice pudding, this is what I imagine. This is the recipe. That's even how I have it labeled here. The rice pudding when I made this up. It's so good. This is going to taste fantastic. We might sprinkle a little cinnamon on top when we serve it. But that's it. This is going to taste like home. This tastes like comfort. This tastes like it's 30 degrees out again and it could snow and the wind is blowing and the house might blow over. It smells good. It tastes good. And I hope that you try it. I hope that you enjoy it. I'm going to put the recipe in the description. And if I can figure out how to get it in the comments, I'll put it in there too, just so it's easier for anyone who wants to look it up. And if you make it, let me know what you think, because there's such a wide variety of rice puddings. So put in the comments and let me know if you make it, what you think. Do you think that this is the rice pudding? Because I think that this is the rice pudding. And if you have a more the rice pudding recipe, share it with me, because I want to give it a try, okay? I take rice pudding seriously. Thank you. Let me know how it goes. Take care.